You know, I can't believe, first of all, it's the middle of September, and this has been the year, other than our first year, where we've had the most first-time offenders, and this time we're welcoming the wonderful Abe Fogle. Abe, welcome for the first
Thank
time on
you.
Drum Talk TV. How are you?
Thank you, man. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. It's a
Oh,
pleasure to be here.
absolutely. Yeah, huge fan. You reminded me that we met years ago at a NAMM show in the Yamaha booth. It's funny, we call it the Yamaha booth. It's like a whole floor at the Marriott
Right,
outside the convention center, but we still call it a booth. The
right. The
Yamaha
Yamaha
booth is
Ballroom.
yeah, the ballroom, Yamaha ballroom, absolutely. And you've had a really great career. You've been with Rob Thomas for what, it's like 30 years now or something crazy?
Well, it's actually 20 years.
20
And
years
yeah,
still. Wow.
it's 30 years. Next year, 30 years will be the 30th anniversary of next year will be the 30th anniversary of Matchbox.
Right, right. 20 years. Most people don't keep a job for 20 years, whether it's their decision or not. So that's cool. We'll get to that for sure. Where I really want to start is for those who don't know, let's just go ahead and start at the beginning. Why drums? When drums? And is that your first instrument? Is it your only instrument? Let's first, before we get to all your wonderful experiences with Rob, let's talk about your musical journey leading up to that and then how you got that gig. And we'll talk about working with Rob and other
Right on,
projects.
right on, right on. Well, I tell you, drums wasn't my first instrument. My first instrument was actually piano. And when I was really little, and the age difference between myself and my older sister is 7 years. So when I was about 3, she was about 10. There was a piano. There was an upright piano in the house, and she used to practice her scales with the metronome. The one that clicks back and forth,
Yeah.
right? And I used to sit in the chair and just marvel at her practicing. So one day she decided that she was going to practice. So she started practicing and she got frustrated. She turned off the metronome and left the piano open. I climbed up on the piano stool and by ear played what it was she was playing. My mother grabbed my father at the time and yanked him around the corner and then whispered to him, "See, Al, that's why I bought the piano."
Oh, that's
So
such a sweet story.
from there, like even as a little kid, from there she was giving me putting me in like piano lessons. I was doing recitals at like 5. I was in like theory classes at age 7.
And during all that time, Abe, were you always real good with the ear, and are you still like an ear learner?
um Pretty much. I mean, I still I pride myself in knowing that I read fairly well,
Mhm.
but a lot of times I pick up things by ear. And for me, I seem to absorb it a lot more quickly when I, pick it up by ear because it becomes more internal a whole lot more quickly instead of it jumping off of a page at you, having to
Mhm.
interpret it and then having to digest it and put it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I was doing, she had me in competitions, and I do remember one time my piano teacher called my mother and said, "I need you to come in. I need you to come into the school." And the first thing my mother's thinking is that I'm acting up.
Right, of course.
I'm acting a fool. I'm playing the little things that my brothers taught me on the piano. Little stand, because it was like "Stand by Me" was the favorite, "Heart and Soul" was the favorite, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So my mother goes to the school and she's like, "Is he acting up in class? Is he misbehaving? Let me know because I will tear him a new one if he's misbehaving."
She already had her shoe off, right?
Right, right. She had a shoe in one hand, a belt in the other. She was ready to go, right? My teacher says, "Oh no, Miss Fogle, it's the complete opposite. He's one of the best students that I ever had. And really, I needed you to come in because I wanted to talk to you because I don't think I can teach him anymore. I would like to teach,
Wow,
I would like to send him to a more advanced teacher to get him on his way."
wow.
Mother being totally shocked about it. She was like, okay. So
And for context, I gotta ask, Abe, for
sure.
context, how were you performing in other traditional school classes at that time?
Um, I was actually doing okay because in school, in academia, they had me playing recorder, so
Oh,
you had to choose. It was either the recorder or the violin, but everybody sang in the assembly in the morning,
yeah.
so everybody was a singer. But then the option was to play the recorder or to play the violin, and I chose the recorder. So I was playing recorder in school, so that kept me kind of out of trouble. I was still a little bit of a class clown, but that kind of came with the territory, with all the friends that I was hanging out with at the time, who are still my friends to this day, some 50
Right.
some odd years later.
And the clowning is what put drumming in your future anyway.
It did. It did. You can definitely say that. You can definitely say that. So, yeah, I'll try to move this along as quickly as possible. So I finally
Right.
got to the new teacher. My mother, my other teacher, Fran Oni was her name. Thank you, Miss Oni, for everything. Um, we all got on the subway and went from Manhattan into Queens. So we got to this apartment building, and my mother and my other teacher got me to the front door, knocked on the door, and then they went off and had like some coffee or some tea or something like that. They went and had girl talk while I had an hour lesson with this woman. She opened the door. The apartment was completely dark. The only thing that was available was the light coming through the window, which shone on the piano.
Wow.
This woman, she had a thick Russian accent, and she carried a long stick. And she said, and she sat off in the corner, and she said, "Let me hear your scales." So I started with my scales. I started playing my scales, and all of a sudden, you hear and you feel whap on my hand. She said, "Curl your pinky." So I'm like, okay. So I'm playing like this again, and she goes, "Whap, curl your pinky." So I guess it was something like when you play piano and you curl your pinky, it has a tendency to give your ring finger more strength,
Yeah.
and you get a little bit more dexterity out of your fingers. I'm imagining that's what it was.
Yeah.
So, I'm going through these lessons. I'm playing. I'm getting better. And around age 11, it was a week after her birthday and 2 weeks before mine, I lost my mother. So
Oh,
as a result of that, I lost all inspiration for playing music. I started playing sports. I was playing football and baseball and stuff. I was getting into playing football. I was thinking about becoming a professional ball player, even though I wasn't really tall. Everybody said you had to be big and you had to be tall. But now you see professional ball players who are like 5'8", 190 going out there playing football. And then
yeah.
there's Muggsy Bogues, who's 5'3", who could
Right.
jam on a 10-foot basketball court.
Totally.
So I never let the naysayers dissuade me. I was still focused on sports. Then we had an incident, because this was on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. We had an incident where my brother got involved in he wasn't in the gang, but a gang member shot my brother and
Oh,
he lost us some fingers on his hand and things
oh.
like that. And my dad was like, "That's enough. I've had enough of New York." So we moved out to Teaneck. And I remember moving to Teaneck in 1977. And for the first 4 days, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep because it was too quiet. I didn't have people arguing in Spanish and screaming out loud at each other. I didn't have sirens from fire engines, from fire trucks or police cars, blaring. And
You
those,
know what? I gotta tell you, I told you that my wife grew up in the North Bronx.
yes,
Same thing. We live in the mountains like you do. Too quiet for her. She has to have a fan on for the white noise to make up for
yes.
that absence of years and years and years of growing up with all that noise out the window
That's right.
in New York. Yeah.
That's right. That was a reality. And for
Yeah.
me, that, like I said, that was my lullaby. If
Yeah.
I didn't hear sirens and things like that, I couldn't sleep well that night.
Right.
So excuse me. My dad says that's enough of New York. We're done. So he moved us out to Teaneck, and I spent a good number of years in Teaneck. And the reason why I'm mentioning Teaneck is because you had to take either band or choir, and I chose choir, but you also had to take music appreciation.
I took that, but it wasn't
And I
forced on
mean,
us.
to this day, the kids are missing out on so much by not
Yeah.
having those things available to them, because this woman, Mildred Cronish, was the woman who basically brought music back into my life and made me fall in love with music all over again.
Oh,
She
neat.
had connections. She had connections to the point where, here it is, I'm 13 years old. I'm 13, 14 years old. And she had hookups to the Metropolitan Opera in New York, to the New York Symphony. And so we would
Wow.
have field trips to go and watch them rehearse. I actually watched Pavarotti rehearse.
Wow.
Luciano Pavarotti rehearsed with the Metropolitan Opera
Wow, we
as
used to
a
go
kid.
to the LA one of the LA operas every year, like in, junior high and maybe last 2 years of elementary school at the Shrine Auditorium,
Sure.
but and music appreciation for those youngsters watching that don't know what that was, I always had an interest because I played in junior high in concert band. I
Yes.
was playing timpanis, first chair snare, drove the director nuts because I want to play timpani instead of snare. But
Uh-huh.
going into music appreciation, learning all about Baroque and all sorts of other classical genres and the where those came from and all that was
Indeed.
so enriching. And for someone that's always been into progressive rock,
Yeah,
like Yes, Genesis, ELP, all that.
absolutely.
I was like, "Oh, that's where their stuff comes from." It was
Yes.
so enriching, man.
Yes, it was enlightening. That's the
Yeah.
same thing for me, because at the same time, while I was listening to Kool and the Gang and Parliament Funkadelic and BT Express and Confunction and Isaac Hayes and the Bar-Kays and all that stuff, I was also listening to
Yeah.
Yes, The Who, Zeppelin, Tull, Kiss, Foreigner, Boston. I had
Yeah.
all of that going on all of this going on at the same time. And then Miss Cronish ended up bringing in the classical aspect. So I did the same thing when it came to Yes. I kind of tied the knot
Yeah.
and said, so that's where ELP gets that sound from. And
Right.
so wait a minute, I recognize that scale from da 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 da, and started,
Right.
started tying up the loose ends,
Yeah.
and it was really tremendous. So to Miss Cronish, she ends up, giving me like vocal solos in the choir. So she brought the music back into my life. Then I had a friend of mine, Kenny Moore, who was playing trombone in the band. And he comes to me at lunch one day and he's like, "Hey, we need more trombone players in the band. You want to play trombone?" And I was like, okay. So they got me, the band director, who was also a trombone player, got me a trombone, got me a mouthpiece, taught me, because I had basic knowledge of, reading from playing piano.
Right.
So I kind of had a little bit of a leg up, although I was rusty. I
How
still
old are
had a
you
little
at
bit
this
of a leg.
point, Abe?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, how old are you at this point?
I'm 14,
Okay.
15 years old, about 14.
Okay.
So I'm in junior high school and I'm playing trombone now. I'm playing trombone in the band. I'm singing in the choir. I'm doing solos in the choir and stuff, and just getting my life enriched in this music all over again. And so getting to the drums, this is how this happened. One night, I'm hanging out at a friend of mine's house, and it's like three of us hanging out, and his brother. I'm 14. I started playing drums kind of late. His brother thought we were cool enough that, hey, we could split a six-pack, and hey, we wouldn't tell, because look, we're 14-year-olds drinking beer, right? So I had my one beer and I was getting ready to start another beer, but before I started the other beer, the house started spinning. So I had to go lay down. So I went to my friend's bedroom and went to go lay down, to take a quick anti-spin nap, but he had a drum set sitting right next to the bed. So instead of taking a nap, I decided to try and see what I could do independently with each limb, and came up with a very awkward but very determined disco beat.
Oh, wow, nice.
I put four on the floor, 2 and 4 on the snare, and eighth notes on the hi-hat. But the minute
Yeah.
I tried to go boom, got, everything fell apart. But from that moment on, that began the love affair that I have with and for my drums. So the very next day, very next day, I'm like, Dad, can I have a drum set? 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 And he's like, son, if you don't get out of my face with that nonsense, I'm not trying to hear you with that right about now. So I got out of his face. 15, 20 minutes later, Dad, can I have a drum set? 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 He said, if you're not serious about this, you don't need to be wasting my time. I don't have time to be wasted on you, and I don't have the money necessary to buy you a drum set if all you're going to do is play with the box kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was his mentality. And the reason why that was so very pivotal to me is because I did not realize until a few years later how much of an aficionado of music my dad was.
Wow.
My dad could not read a note, Lord rest his soul. He could not read a note the size of the state of Texas, but he could tell you that if you played something but didn't stand behind it with conviction, he could tell you that you were faking the funk.
Wow.
This is how big my dad's heart was when it came to music. So I ended up finding out that my dad's friends, not just acquaintances, my dad's friends were Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, Sonny Rollins, Art Blakey, Buddy Rich, Elvin Jones,
Wow.
McCoy Tyner, and a countless number of other famous jazzers. And this is how deeply involved my dad is in the music. So he was justified by saying to me, don't waste my time with this.
He knew what commitment it would take especially to make an investment like that, and the importance of applying yourself. That is neat. Wow.
That's right. And then what he ended up doing is he ended up testing the waters. So I told him that a friend of mine had a drum set. He was like, okay, well, how much is it? He wants $35 for the drum set. Well, how many drums is it? Well, it's just a kick drum, a rack tom, and a rod with a cymbal on it. And when you hit the cymbal, you know, cymbals, when you hit the cymbal, this cymbal, when you hit it, it went, bam. Truthfully, I should have saved it and sampled it because it probably would have been an extremely popular sample in pop music.
Right.
Somewhere hip hop.
Sure.
Rock. You hit the cymbal, bam. That's the sound that it made. So my dad bought this $35 drum set, and I'm going to the barter stores. I'm going to the thrift shops to see if I could find a kick pedal because there was no kick pedal for the kick drum. I ended up finding a Speedmaster for like $5 at a thrift shop.
Wow.
So I bought a Speedmaster. So I had that. My brother had a snare drum with only the top head on it. So I found some furniture. I found some table legs and beveled a hole in it so that the rim could fit down in the hole.
Wow. Neat.
And use that as a floor tom because it didn't have a snare stand to come with it. So I used that as a floor tom. So I had a rack tom, this snare floor tom, and a kick drum and a cymbal that went bam. Right. So this is what I'm playing. This is, I'm playing on these drums. And then one day my dad says, come here, son. We got to talk. Because he sees that there's a level of growth that's happening. So when he said, we got to talk, we proceeded to have a 4.5-hour conversation about his friends and what he thought of music. And he, one of the things he said to me is, first of all, one of the many things he said, first of all, you have to understand that this music industry, it is now becoming a business and it's becoming an industry. They have machines that are available that can do your job if you want to be a drummer.
Do you mind if I ask what year this was?
1978, 78, 79, somewhere around there, right? So this is the advent of disco.
Yeah.
This is the advent of drum machines.
Yeah, sequencers,
drum, all that stuff. That's right. Yeah. Synthesizers and all that stuff coming out and being a part of the mainstream, you see. Yeah. So my dad's like, you also have to understand one very important thing about this industry. You're going to put in a lot of hours to get paid very little and to have very little respect shown to you. And you're going to have to be ready for that.
And that's just the fellow band members.
Right. Right. you, you know, and
I do.
he said you're gonna have to be ready for that. You're gonna have to be ready for levels of disappointment that you've never experienced.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to be ready to say no, as along with being able to take it when people say no to you. And so he's like, so you still serious about this? You still you want to do this? And in my head, I'm like, yeah, Dad, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dad, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Let's go, let's go, let's go. He's like, slow your roll, kid. First thing you got to understand about these drums. And then he went on to explain about the machines and how you are going to have to convince the producer that he doesn't need a machine, that he wants to call you back again. So
Yeah.
in order to do that as a drummer, your time has to be impeccable. So he then proceeded to put on an album called Clifford Brown and Max Roach in 3/4 time.
Oh, wow. Nice. All waltzes.
Yes, yes. So he says, the first time on this first take, what I want you to do is I want you to listen to Max Roach's hi-hat. So I was like, okay, let's go for it. Drop the needle, record doom, gadoom, gadoom,
Yeah.
gadoom, 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 gadoom. So I listened to it all the way back, all the way first side. I lifted the needle and got ready to flip the album over. And he was like, no, 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 no. Put it back to the beginning. And now I want you to listen to his hi-hat in relationship to what his right hand is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So then now I have ba-bing, getting, 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 getting. So I'm listening to that. I get ready to go and flip the album over. He's like, you're not done yet. Now you have to listen to how he accentuates on the snare drum, all the other things that are going on around him, how he's listening to the other musicians, how he's interacting without getting in the way. That's another thing that you're going to have to learn about this music thing, how to play without getting in the way, right? So now I'm listening to the snare drum and I'm listening to the ding, ka-doom, ka, ka-ta-ka-ding, cha, ka-doo, ka, and it's starting to sink in.
Is this where you're realizing that the drum set is really its own ensemble, its own orchestra, and that what is played, what Max was playing, was orchestrated music just on the drum set alone, right?
That's right. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. And he also, I have one of my greatest teachers, Michael Carvin, actually expounded on this point that my dad said. My dad, he basically said, as a drummer, you have to put yourself in a position to orchestrate the band. In other words, you have to make it seem in a big band situation, you have to make it seem as if you made the horn players play that accent.
Yeah.
Like the accent didn't just come out of nowhere.
Right.
So if you're playing in a big band and you're like bang bang bang,
Right.
you have
Yeah.
to make it sound like you're
You're
making
driving it. Yeah. Totally.
you're driving that tank,
Yeah.
right? So here I am, 1978, 14 years old, 1979, 15 years old.
I
And
thought we were about the same age. I think I'm a year older than you.
I'm 61.
I'm 62. Yeah,
Oh,
there you
okay.
go.
So,
'Cause,
yeah.
I gotta just say this, when I met my wife, she was, just about 50. And I was like, "Oh my gosh," I said, "You look so young." And she said, "Well, black don't crack, baby." And I said, I know. And did you know once you go Jew, yabba dabba do?" And she said, "I do. I'm Jewish too." And that's how I found out she was black and Jewish. Got the whole
That's great.
package.
That's
But
great.
yeah, I thought we were about the same age. And so here you are, now you understand that the drum set is its own ensemble, its own orchestra, and it drives what everyone else is doing. What did you do with all that after he really, and I mean this in a positive way, obviously schooled you on
Oh,
all that?
Oh, no
Did you
question.
start playing with other kids that
Yes.
played? Okay.
Yes. I'd gotten asked by a good friend of mine, Greg Bendian. I had gotten asked by him to join a band, and this band was like one of the most eye, mind, heart, and spirit opening bands that anyone could ask for.
Wow.
The band was called Modern Art, and we were about playing avant-garde music.
All about the
So
same age range?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
From say we were 15 to 17-year-olds,
Wow, interesting.
listening to stuff like Happy the Man,
Yeah, yeah.
listening to stuff like Albert
King
Eiler and John Coltrane's improvisational, his duets with him and Rashid Ali,
yeah.
you
Just
know,
going out there.
yes, yes, like, and every now and then picking up like a Foreigner record and
Right.
and listening to it, but our everything was off the back wall, off the beaten path.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was one of the most mind opening, mind opening and eye opening experiences for me musically.
What I love about that, I gotta ask you, Abe, sorry to
Sure.
interrupt, but what I love about that is it sounds like you really got a great experience playing with other musicians that were not in a band just playing 4/4, but you were playing music that gave you the latitude for improvisation and to really find out what does all this do? You
Yeah.
and still hold it together with other guys that are because like your dad taught you, you got to pay attention, you got to read off each other, feed off each other without getting in the way, even if it's some crazy fast-paced 165 beats per minute jazz, just rip it away.
Right.
It sounds like you got an amazing experience really early on with that kind of music.
I most certainly did. And like I was saying before, even while I was listening to the Kool and the Gangs and and the funk and the R&B heat wave and all that other kind of
Yeah.
stuff, I was getting this experience of the not necessarily Grateful Dead, because that's one thing that my dad talked about in that 4.5 hour conversation. He was like, we talked about everything from Hendrix to his buddies
Yeah.
to his not necessarily a dislike for the Grateful Dead, but it just didn't turn him on. But he understood how people, how people gravitated towards that kind of thing. So he was really open minded about a lot of stuff like that. So this group kind of like brought it all into place. And I mean, we'd have touches of funk, we'd have
Mhm.
touches of rock. We were definitely fusioned out. We were yes heads. And
Yeah.
like I said, Happy the Man, 13/8 was like almost as common as playing in cut time or playing in four for
That's
us.
so cool.
And that's what we shot for. We
Yeah.
didn't shoot for the commonalities, if you will. We shot for the rarities. We shot for the things that didn't sound like everything else, and we did pretty well. We definitely grew a lot, that's for sure. And then from I have to. My life story wouldn't be complete without this one.
Yes, please.
So I had a friend of mine. So I'm starting high school, and back then high school started in 10th grade.
Yep.
You know the deal, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So 10th grade, sophomore year in high school, friend of mine comes to me and he's like, Abe, so I hear you play drums. My older brother, Vinny, this is my friend Chris Bertolini. My older brother, Vinny, is giving up his drums to play percussion. So he has a slew of drums for sale. You interested? And I was like, heck yeah, let me talk to my dad about this. So I go home and Saturday morning, I go home and I'm home Saturday morning and I'm like, Dad, I explained the whole thing to him. My friend's got a drum set, a boatload of drums, a heck of a lot of drums and cymbals, stands, and all this other kind of stuff. My dad's like, how much does he want for the drum set? It was like 3 kick drums. It was like 4 snare drums, like 5 or 6 cymbal
You're
stands.
gearing up in your mind to join Mahavishnu Orchestra, right?
Oh,
Basically.
yeah, I'm the next Billy Cobham with all this stuff.
Right, for
You
sure.
know, I'm the next Lenny White with all this
Yeah.
stuff. I'm getting ready to, I'm going. This is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So my dad asked, so how much does he want for all these drums? Said $400. My dad goes, oh, Well, I suggest you get yourself out there and get a job so you can raise that $400 for your drum set. So, in other words, another one of his favorite sayings was gas, grass, or ass. Nobody rides for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And for context, for younger people, I want to do something real quick. For younger
Sure.
people, here's what that means, because people are dropping 400, 1,400 on snares,
Yeah.
different things like that. But let's just do this. Siri, how much is $400 US in 1979 worth today?
I found this on the web.
It's ready.
Uh-huh.
It's the same as. It's going to give me the answer. Let's just round it off to $1,800.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
That's when
$400.
gas was reaching $1. We were losing our minds. $1?
Oh,
Are you kidding me?
my uncle went crazy when gas went to $1 a gallon. He lost his daggone mind. Oh my goodness.
Now I'm happy to get $1 off when I save all my shopping points at the market.
How about that? And use the senior discount too.
So what job did you get?
Well,
Get the drums. And did the guy hold them that long? Like, what happened?
Here's like Fig Newton said, here's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of folks don't know about that one either.
Remember that.
But so I decided that I was going to get a job after school working at a telemarketing firm. Looking up phone numbers and listings that you would then sell to another telemarketer that would use them to try and sell like children's books or magazines or encyclopedias over the phone.
I was just going to say encyclopedias for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So what I would do is school was about a 15-minute walk from the house. When school let out, I would run home, practice from like about 3:15 until about 4:30. Freshen up, go to the job, work from 5:30 to 9:30, sometimes do overtime and work until 10. So if I didn't do overtime, I would come home. I'd be home about 9:45, play drums until about 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock, something like that. Go to sleep, get up in the morning, and before school, play drums, and run off to school, rinse and repeat. Second verse, same as the first. I did that for about 6 weeks. One Saturday morning, my dad says to me, "So, how you doing on saving up for that drum set?" And I said, "Well, I got $200, so I figure in another 6 weeks I'll have the other 200." And so, he's still holding on to them for me. So I believe they're going to be there in another 6 weeks. So my dad looks off to the side and he goes, "You got $200 now?" I said, "Yeah, and I'll have another $200 in 6 weeks." He pauses and goes, "Call your friend. Let's go get that drum set."
Oh,
So he put up the other $200. And I'll tell you, I was pleased as punch. Right. So I dedicated my time to playing those drums. And then my dad saw how serious I really, really was about drums. And I found this out recently because one of my first drum teachers that I had passed away not long ago. But he told me, Bob Heater, I finally, after 30 years, I found him on Facebook and kept in touch with him and thanked him. I tried to get him to come out to my shows and things like that to see what he did.
Yeah.
So he confessed to me that my dad actually interviewed him before allowing him to teach me.
That's so cool.
He sat him down and he was like, "So
what you feel?"
Right. He says here in the paper, "You're a drum teacher. So if my son were to take lessons from you, what do you plan on teaching him?" This is what my dad did. Again, couldn't read a note the size of the state of Texas, but it was about your conviction that he would get you on, right? If you weren't careful.
Right? I want to point out that others that are chasing the dream, whatever music is to you or whatever you're into is to you,
right?
One of the biggest takeaways from your story is your work ethic as a youngster, the way you applied yourself. Your dad recognized that, the way you played before school, after school, before you went to bed, after work. How you do everything is how you do anything, or
That's
rather
right.
how you do anything is how you do everything.
That's right.
And that, I'm sure that work ethic just really transferred all the way now to how you got all these gigs and why you were called and why, because people could rely on you, you stuck with it. And not to mention, I'm sure it affected how well you got at drumming. There's that byproduct, but a work ethic is so important, and you can't half-ass this and that and then do this really well. It just doesn't work like that. How you do anything is how you do everything.
That's right. That's right. And especially for me and paying tribute to my dad's legacy,
Yeah.
because of everything that he put on the table in front of me,
Yeah.
I had to. Okay, we talk about work ethic. My dad, in addition to doing all of this stuff for me, my dad would leave the house at 7 o'clock in the morning and come back home roughly 1:30 in the morning after having worked 2 full-time jobs. Did
Wow.
that for 38 years.
Wow.
So if you're talking about a work ethic,
Yeah.
if you're talking about where somebody could get said work ethic,
Right. Right.
it was
What
it
did
was
he
right
do?
here.
What did he
My
do,
dad
Abe?
in the morning, and this is also very special. In the morning, he used to work for a place called Marfay Fashions. It was a textiles cutting place.
Oh,
So they would cut out they would cut out designs for like leather couches and
yeah.
dresses and things like that. So whenever it was like back to school shopping time, you know, dad would take me to the store and I go, Dad, can I have this shirt? And he look at the shirt and the first thing he would do is go,
Yeah. He knew
son,
material,
yeah,
quality.
son, we gonna go to Orchard Street and get you 3 of these for the same price. Because
Nice.
and he was Orchard Street was like the predominantly Hasidic Jewish area where we
Yeah.
very close to where we lived.
The Shmata district.
Yes. And they had the clothing shops there,
Yeah.
in addition to the Bialys and the bagel shops and all of that stuff. They
Yeah.
had the clothing shops. And my dad, because he was in the textiles industry, he was very popular down there. So we would go to Orchard Street and he would go to his favorite shop and, Al, how are you? Good to see you. You got the little one with you. Look, this just came in. I want you to take a look at it. You're getting the first crack at it. Okay, let's take a look at this right here. Yeah, I'll get it from the back. Okay, I'll be right back. Oh, your little one, he's so cute. So
Yeah.
he gets it. The guy comes back and he's got pants. He's got shirts, dress shirts, and after Sunday school stuff and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And my dad's like, see, now this is what I'm talking about. This is quality stuff, and you're not paying department store prices.
Prices, right.
So
Yeah.
that was his first job. The second job was way more significant in that he was a custodian at NYU.
Oh,
Excuse me. And my mother was also a custodian at NYU. So they would do the afternoon shift together, like the 4:30 to 12:30 thing. But my mother was, a homemaker in the morning. Right. So the reason why that part was significant was because where my dad worked was across the street from a very popular club called the Bottom Line in New York. Also, diagonal from where my dad worked, the building where he worked was a high rise. In this high rise, Art Blakey lived in the building.
oh,
So how
wow.
he became friends with Art Blakey is one evening, my dad's standing outside having a cigarette, and Art Blakey comes out of the building. He's either coming out of the building or going into the building. So my dad hollers across the street, "Good evening, Mr. Blakey. It's good to see you." Art stops, turns around, looks at my dad and goes, "My father is Mr. Blakey. If you want to address me, you either call me Art or you call me Buchanan."
Yeah.
From then on, my dad and Art Blakey were friends.
That's
"You
so
doing,
cool.
Art? Hey, what's happening now? How you feel? How's everything? What you getting into tonight?" "Oh, same old. I'm working." Well, listen, I got a gig coming up at the such and such. Can you make it?" "I don't know. I'm going to be working that night," but this is how that happened. Now,
Yeah.
the reason why I brought that up is because what my dad used to do is he used to play hooky from his job. And his friend, his co-workers used to let him cut, and they would punch him out.
Yeah.
What he would do is he would go to the clubs and stay at the clubs until the last note was played. Now, back in the day, last call was when the last guy got tired of drinking at the bar. So at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, these guys are still burning and blazing.
Yeah.
My dad is still right there checking him out. He wasn't a big drinker, but he was still there checking him out. So what he used to do is at the end of the night, to thank the guys for such great music and a great evening, he would take them out to breakfast.
Nice.
So that's how he got to become friends
Build relationships.
with
Yeah.
with Miles and Monk and Train. And
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, but I have to tell this story because it means
That's okay. Yeah.
there's a couple stories that mean so much to me that my father shared with me.
Yeah.
One night he's at one of the clubs, one of the famous clubs on 52nd Street, and he's checking out. Well, let me backtrack.
Sure.
It's a Sunday night before I was born, probably like 1959, something like that. Ring, ring, ring. Phone rings. Dad picks up the phone. Hey, Al, what's going on? Oh, hey, Miles, how you feel? How's everything? I'm good. Listen, Al, I'm coming to New York, and I better see your blank at the club. My dad was like, don't worry, Miles. I'll be there. So my dad was there every night, every set, right? It's either a Friday night or a Saturday night, standing room only. Club is sold out. My dad is sitting at a round table by himself, nursing a Pepsi because he really didn't drink that much, right? So waitress comes over to my dad. He orders a Pepsi. The club owner comes over to my dad and he's like, I understand that you're friends with the band and everything. And, but we got a packed house. The least thing you could do is like order some liquor. My dad was like, all right, don't worry. Da, 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 da. Right. So, and this happened to be my favorite permutation of the Miles quintet. It was Miles, Train, Wynton Kelly on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Philly Joe Jones on drums.
Yeah.
Right. So they're burning. They play through the first set. They change the house. My dad's still sitting there at the table. They change the house, standing room only. They're in the middle of the set. The waitress comes over and my dad orders another Pepsi. The waitress goes storming off and goes to get the club owner. They're in the middle of the set now. The cats are burning. They're on the bandstand, right? They're burning it up. Club owner comes over to my dad and starts screaming at my dad. He said, that's it. Mofo, I told you, you have to order some liquor. Now, not only do you have to get up from the table, you got to get the F up out of my club. Miles walked up to the ribbon mic, went like this. The band said,
right.
He said, hey, you leave that mofo alone. Of course, he didn't say mofo.
Right.
You leave that mofo alone. If he got to go, I got to go. Club owner backed up off my dad like this, and Miles said, and everybody jumped back in.
Yeah, just fell back into it. Yeah. What a great story. Right. Isn't that crazy that is how, things worked back then as far as like forcing liquor on you?
How about that?
Especially a packed house. Like, why would they need to eat anyway?
Why would you
made sense.
Why would you go to one person?
Yeah.
You're selling drinks left and right. There are people standing up buying drinks, and you're selling drinks left and right. Why would you go to one person thinking that you're going to get more people sitting at this table to buy more drinks or something? I didn't even think that deeply into it, but it was just precious to me that Miles went out of his way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To stand up for my dad.
Totally.
Now we fast forward to another episode where dad is at another one of Miles's gigs. So my dad takes him out to breakfast. So my dad is in a booth sitting next to Train, diagonal from Monk, and opposite Miles in a booth, right? I'm finished. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. That's it. I mean, that's it right there. Yeah. That's it. Right. So they're eating breakfast, and Miles looks up and goes, so how it sound last night, Al? My dad says, "Come on, Miles. You know you're the quintessential Miles Davis. Come on, you know how you always sound great. I mean, come on. If the club was packed and everybody was loving it, this and that and the other, blah blah blah." Miles paused for a second, and I won't say exactly what he said, but my dad said that Miles said, "Don't give me that downbeat magazine bull spit. Give me the real story." Now, my dad not being prolific in musical language, but again, his heart.
Yeah. He
He
knew what he
spoke,
was hearing.
yes, he
Yeah.
spoke from his heart. And this is what my dad said to Miles. He said, "Well, Miles, I noticed there was something that you did in the second set. You started with a theme. And I knew it was a theme because you did it more than once. And you didn't quite get to it the first time that you did it. But what I liked about it is that you didn't give up on it. So then I heard you go to that theme again and you nailed it. And not only did you nail it, you went for a third time and went above and beyond what that theme was." And I was like, "That's it right there. He's got it." Miles
Yeah.
said, paused, and he said, "Now see, that's the spit I'm talking about right there." And he said they all laughed at the table and everything.
That's
So,
awesome. Your dad probably could have been a beat reporter for the jazz scene, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another one is how he met Sonny Rollins. Before I was born, they used to live in another apartment building on the Lower East Side, and they used to live on the 13th floor. So when my dad was off from work, he used to hang out the window, smoking his cigarettes, listening to Sonny Rollins practice on the Williamsburg Bridge because they were right there. The apartment building was right next to the Williamsburg Bridge. So my dad got bold one day and decided to go downstairs, walk up on the Williamsburg Bridge, and sit in front of Nuke while he was practicing. And that's how my dad and Nuke became friends. And there was also part of the story behind his album, Williamsburg Bridge.
Oh, wow. Interesting. You mentioned great stories. Thanks for sharing all that. And I
I
have to
don't,
throw this in. You mentioned Thelonious Monk. My wife's mother lived 2 doors down from him and used to say, "Yeah, the only thing I ever saw or heard was a bunch of arguing and a lot of pot smoke coming out from under the door."
wow.
Way back in the day,
Yeah,
obviously. Thanks for sharing all that. I got a couple more questions and
sure.
would love to have you on again. There's just so much to talk about.
Be my pleasure.
Forgive me for not knowing this off the top of my head, but what period, when did you play with Casey and the Sunshine Band? And I'm going to grab something to show you real quick. When did you play with Casey?
Well, it wasn't so much that I did a tour with them. What I did is, I don't know if you remember when Hollywood did a remake with Robin Williams of the movie Flubber,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? They were asked to use one of their songs and rename it
Oh, wow.
to accommodate the movie. So it was "Get Down Tonight."
Oh,
So,
wow.
so what it was it was "Goo a little dance, make a
Yeah.
little flub, get down tonight."
Yeah. Interesting, because I have an encounter with Casey. I was 15. I was in ninth grade in junior high, and our band director asked me and just a few other students to go with the senior band of the high school up the street and play at America's bicentennial celebration at the LA Coliseum, and Casey and the Sunshine Band was the band. So we,
Wow.
as a giant school band from the school district, played before them. Evil
Wow.
Knievel was there, President Ford, and I still have the program.
Right. That's
Yeah,
great.
I was curious about that.
So yeah, it was just a recording session, but this was around the time that I was with Kool and the Gang, because Kool and the Gang and KC and the Sunshine Band's manager was the same person.
Oh,
So he ended up, flying me down to Florida to do that session for
that's cool.
for the movie.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was my KC and the Sunshine Band experience.
That's
It wasn't,
great.
it wasn't a tour. I mean, they were trying to get me on the tour to double dip because KC and Kool and the Gang were double billing. They were on the same
Oh,
bill, and we were running around different parts of Europe and stuff like that. So
nice.
and that was fun. So that was around 97, from 97 to 99, somewhere around there.
Okay, cool. Now we talked about with Rob Thomas for 20 years now.
Yes.
How did you get the gig? And then secondly, what's the biggest thing you've gotten out of playing with Rob, whether it was musically, socially, professionally? What's your biggest takeaway from having that for 20 years, and how did you get the gig?
I'll flip it and start with the how.
Sure, absolutely.
My dear friend, my dear friend, and my musical director with Rob, Matt Beck. Call him Matty Moo. Shout out to Matty Moo. Matt and I were doing gigs around New York together, playing with a cat named Abe Fogle, Alex Brovsky, French horn player. And we were doing like hip hop with French horns and just playing these gigs around the city. So one day Matt had called me for a gig with a Middle Eastern singer, and it wasn't really like Odd Times or anything like that, but her name was Husher, and but still it's great Middle Eastern music. It was really cool scene. So on the break, Matt came to me and was like, Abe, I may have something for you. I don't know how positive it is yet. I don't know what's going on with it, all the details or anything, but I may have something for you if you're interested. And I was like, sure, man, what you got? And he's like, well, I've been given the opportunity to be the MD for this guy named Rob Thomas. And I wanted to know, if you'd be interested. And I was like, yeah, sure, man. Sure. Yeah, sure. No, I had no idea who Rob Thomas was.
Right. Could have been anything you were stepping into, right?
Anything. Could have been any type of gig. Could have been a polka gig as far as I knew. I just had no idea who he was. So I went home and looked up the name. And after I finished picking up my jaw off the ground from realizing who Rob Thomas is, I was like, holy cow. All right. Positive energy, positive vibes towards this. Right. So fast forward a few weeks. And while certain other people were recommended by agencies, by word of mouth, by auditioning, Matt came to me and said, Abe, the gig is yours if you want it. And one of the other reasons why that was because the other drummer had a commitment. The drummer that he was using previous for previous dates had a commitment with another group. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to send in his sub to play the first 6 weeks of Rob's promo tour, but then go out and do, the rest of the tour.
Yeah.
And Rob was like, I don't know if I really want, I don't want that kind of switching up of energies. Attempt. Right.
Yeah.
So, Rob was like, if you're going to be here, I want you here, kind of thing. So Matt puts me in touch, and there were like some preliminary rehearsals. There was one rehearsal where I got a chance to meet the bass player, Al Cardi, and at the time, the guitar player, Frank Romano. We came into the rehearsal hall, shook each other's hands. Nice to meet you, because we hadn't met. Got behind our instruments and proceeded to play for an hour and 40 minutes straight. And at the end of it, said, okay, cool. See you tomorrow. Take care. Have a great day. Walked off, but it was like this.
Yeah.
Day one.
Instant gel, right?
Yeah. So day 2, Matt comes in. Day 3, Rob comes in, and we're on a little bit of a break. So I go to Rob and I said 2 things. First, thank you for having me, man. Thank you so much for having me. He's like, oh no, man, you deserve to be here. You're killing it. I was like, thank you. The other thing that I wanted to tell you, the other important thing that I want to tell you is that I'm here from spring training until the World Series and everything in between. And he was like, that's what I like to hear. So
great.
In all that time, I think I may have missed three gigs in 20 years.
20 years. Wow. And that's a lot of gigs. That's a lot of touring, a lot of music making together. and everything. Before you answer the second to last question, the next question is how you the biggest takeaway. I want to show everybody this drum solo. This is with Beth Hart. We'll talk more about you working with Beth Hart, Kool and the Gang on another interview. We got to do this at least 5 more times. But here's not only cool. Thank you. Here's not only just a cool drum solo, folks, but in a suit. That's my favorite part. I love that. I got to try that. I love that part. It's so cool. I love the open-handedness, the dexterity you have, being able to just go back and forth. And everybody loves, especially my wife, everybody loves a great series of cymbal chokes. Awesome. So we got a few minutes left. Share with us. We're at 56 and a half minutes. If we keep it under an hour, we could put the whole thing as is on Instagram.
Right on.
I got a quick question after this answer, though.
Sure.
Share with us in short, what's the biggest takeaway you've gotten out of working with Rob Thomas in the Kai?
Biggest takeaway that I've gotten, being able to tell a story with your music. First off, I want to say that Rob is one of the greatest storytellers behind this music thing. He's just incredible. Like his lyrics and how he builds a song from its infancy to its adulthood and everything in between. He's just amazing at that. And he's allowed for me to translate that to playing the drums. Like how you start a song should not be how you finish a song. The dynamic involved with growing a song. Yeah. That's one of the main things. That's one of the main takeaways that I got from
that is cool.
Doing Rob's gig. Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing that. A lot of shout outs for you. Steve will send you the links to this on Facebook, YouTube. You can go through the comments. A lot of great shout outs and accolades for you.
Right on.
Oh, there's one for me. Oh no, that's for you too. And so your last question for this time around is the Abe Fogle fun fact segment. When you're not doing music in those slivers of time where you're not writing, producing, practicing, teaching, touring, gigging, recording, when you're away from music, and you may have answered this privately when we were just chatting before the show, but what's your thing? What do you like to do outside of music?
Enjoy nature.
What's keeping you off the news?
Enjoy nature. Enjoy. I enjoy living my life.
Oh,
that's really what it is, because I'm blessed to be able to do this. Not everybody can say that they do this and they make a living doing this. And
right.
Connections that I've made as a result of doing this and doing this with my life and having such a good life to do it with. I mean, there are ups and downs and there are challenges. This is what Dad told me back when I was a kid, but I was willing to take all of that and turn the poison into medicine, turn the weapon into a tool. I was able to take all of that and absorb it, digest it, and use it for what it is I have. So, I mean, I'm loving life. That's great. I'm healthy, thank God, knock wood. I'm loving life, and it feels like life is loving me back.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. We will definitely be doing this again,
Yes.
maybe in an hour. What are you doing in an hour? No, I'm kidding. Well,
But I'll tell you,
Abe-
big shout out right quick. Big
yeah.
shout out. Nate Jones on bass, y'all. Music
Oh
is
yeah.
essential. Musicians are essential. All right. Nate Jones on bass. Look him up. Nate Jones.
Awesome. I love it.
All right.
For
Get the
sure.
shirt. He has musicians are essential, and he has music is essential. Get it and
Cool.
represent, y'all.
Support. Absolutely. We'll be back sooner than you might think with Abe again on the show. Abe, thank you so much. Hang out with me for a moment. And I want to thank our producer, Steven Shinder, and the whole Drum Talk TV team. And folks, go listen to some awesome music. Put on some Rob Thomas, some Art Blakely, some Miles Davis, some Coltrane, some Thelonious Monk. And we'll see you all soon.
Right on. All night, baby.